As introduced, I head of operations for SIERA AI, a company dedicated to innovative technology solutions for material handling. And first of all, congratulations for finding the room today. It so happens it's kind of tucked away in the corner, but it's a great room here. And this is the second time it's happened to me. So it's great to be here the third time in a row. So I was here in 24 and in 23. And in 23, I talked about how one can introduce AI into the mix for forklift safety, material handling safety, and introduce the whole subject of artificial intelligence from a 50,000 feet overview, not so much in detail, but introducing the subject of AI analytics and generative AI. In 24, I descended a little bit deeper, double-clicked on how to use analytics for AI and how it helps all the constituencies, especially all the operators, the facilities, and as well as the assets and how to optimize all of that. So this year, 2025, I want to double-click on how we use generative AI. By generative AI, we're talking about generating new content based on existing data or older content. I'm sure that many of you have seen how ChatGPT works, constructing new images, etc. kind of thing. Similarly, here, using older data, how can we actually generate newer things, especially using AI, vision-enabled cameras and sensors, etc., to go downstream into doing things such as some level of automation, intelligent deceleration, meaning bringing things to a stop, or maybe direction, etc. So I'm going to double click on that, how best we can actually have predictive control, prescriptive control, zonal control, etc. Okay? Feel free to ask me questions now. We've got a very intimate gathering here, fireside chat, so if you want to actually poke some questions, you can do so. Don't have to wait until the Q&A kind of thing. Okay? Any case, first a brief introduction. This is not a huge part of SIERA AI, but as the name implies, we have artificial intelligence built into our name, and we're all about forklift safety using AI, making material handling equipment, especially forklifts, safer and smarter. As a company, we got started in 2017 with my colleague and the co-founder of the company who came out of Texas A&M with a PhD in robotics. And his big focus was, let's build SIERA Model 1 to be an automated guided robot, automated guided machine. That was a big vision. However, we built the first prototype. We generated 5 different patents based on that. What we found was the market is not ready for it. Nobody was really willing to pay the big bucks for an automated guided robot. Everybody wanted something that would help them in mitigating OSHA regulatory compliance-related safety with the digitized workflow, etc. So we got started on that, and then on to digitizing the whole operational safety requirements, such as impact monitoring, okay, and making sure that any kind of impact, we have information relating to that, to the operators, to the assets, etc. And then we graduated on to preventative safety. How can we actually prevent collisions from happening? How can we provide for an AI-enabled vision system to give the kind of alerts, and then proceeding from the alerts, how can we actually intelligently decelerate, bring the machine to a stop, do all those interesting things. In the back end, we are always monitoring all of our current installations. We have over 1,500 of them operating in the field with a variety of great name customers, as you can see here. One of them happens to be in this whole area, Coralville, for example, maybe even down here. But we have close to 70 logos currently operating our solution installed on forklifts. And on a real-time basis, we are averting incidents. Last year alone, over 1.5 million incidents. If you do the math on this, each incident is perhaps costing around $500,000 times 1.5 million. That's a substantial amount of money. And we talk to a variety of people even here at the show. They tell us that we haven't still thought about it, and that's fine. You know, it's like cybersecurity. Until something bad really happens, people really don't think about it. We like to think of ourselves as more of an insurance checklist for you to do better in terms of like averting this. We even give a return on investment calculator, which is more about how can we save on some of those expenses relating to accidents that may happen. Others may focus on automation as a whole as an ROI. We want to get there by focusing on safety, leading to higher levels of automation. And all these great companies here have one problem in common, which is all these headlines that are making it in mainstream papers like Wall Street Journal. In fact, I just got these headlines from January of this year, January 5th. These headlines showed up on the Wall Street Journal, looked out, and it's one of those love-and-hate relationship with all the material handling equipment, like such as forklift. They mean it, but they also cause incidents, great, costs relating to accidents, and so you see some of these headlines. And the content of the article talked about how they have a variety of operators who are not so experienced, especially post-COVID, many of the experienced ones retiring, and the new ones coming with much less experience and education in operating the forklift. And that means a lot more accidents happening. And OSHA also came out with statistics saying that pretty much the same, but even more, that current day practices that they have today inside of workplaces, red lights, blue lights, marking lanes, corner signals, etc., are not producing the kind of statistics that they want to see. So it's like reached a plateau. So what they're recommending is some next generation force multiplier, such as AI-enabled systems, would be the right way to go. And that's sort of like echoed by Gartner, which is a big think tank working with a variety of technology companies. In their last year, June, where they had their supply chain expo, they talked about how at least 50% of companies will go towards this. Of course, that's 50%. They're assuming that budget. That's what it's for, right? Have money, anything can happen, right? So, anyways, these are the kind of lines that you're dealing with. And it all has to relate to the cost related to accidents. And accidents are on the increase. These are stats from 2020 from the National Safety Council. But the one takeaway from here I would focus on is that any workspace that has 10 or more forklifts has twice the number of accidents happen. Okay? And so it's not that forklifts by themselves are dangerous. I think if you're focusing on productivity and people are sitting around from offloading, onloading facilities to racks, etc., not always watching out for people on the walking by or for that matter, object or backing. And so this is any solution. I'm here not talking about SIERA AI. I want to keep the talk very much focused on more from the educational kind of a session, which you can take home and say, look, we need a comprehensive three-layer approach to this. The first layer that provides us a complete digitized workflow for OSHA regulatory compliance, where the pen and paper are moved out, and we can do all the certification, the authentication of operators, and then the authorization level, what assets that one can operate, etc., what tasks you can take, etc. All that can be done under one pillar. The second pillar, what requires is operational safety at any point in time, tracking all operations, the paths that are being focused, taken within the facilities, and any incident. So you don't have a situation where an incident happens, nobody knows when it happened, did it, etc. But I'm not joking about this. A lot of our clients have told us that this has been a real issue. And a picture of it, a video of it, an audio of it, etc., or a still picture even, goes a long way. I know in some places they have some union rooms where they use cameras, but we've gone through all that on operational safety. And then the third leg on this is the prevention, preventative safety. You have something that can actually avert accidents, collision avoidance, if you will, so that you have a zero accident workspace. And here we use more of the AI vision enabled systems. And in addition, to make sure that the driver can focus on driving and have that extra mind to solve the safety issue. Somewhat similar to what you may see on your iPhone with Siri or Android with Alexa, where it keeps your level of productivity up, reminds you of things, etc. There are two components to AI. One component is using deep learning analytics or algorithms, and the other is generative AI. We'll come to that. But in our line of business, all we're doing is collecting your data from your forklifting operators, from the dashboard, etc. Data relating to everything, including even, in some cases, energy level, the maintenance of your equipment, or range schedules, all of that, right? So what you do with this data everywhere. You don't know how to use it, so we have applied some AI algorithms. Initially, you have all the tracks that can give you the very baseline of stuff, some visibility as to what happened. But that alone is not enough, right? So if you were to apply some deep learning algorithms, you get to the next level as to why is this happening. Some diagnostic kind of information, insights in graphical format can be presented. Then next level of algorithms can get you some level of predictive analytics, which is more about what can happen, what will happen, right? And then more prescriptive as to what you don't want to happen, what you may happen, etc. Right? Then all along you're moving along the complexity of a higher level in each of these algorithms while providing for higher level value of learning. And it's going to benefit these constituencies, like in terms of the assets, you have all varieties of the material handling, power industrial vehicle, forklifts, and how do you actually optimize the use of these, how do you optimize the maintenance, and how do you optimize the purchase of them, how do you actually optimize the energy usage of them, and then on operators, how can we actually make sure that we maintain a healthy profile, the risk profiles and the safety profiles of these operators or administrators, and how do we provide for the levels of administrative duties for each of them, and for safety managers as well, right, and providing the right level of training, and so on for facilities as well. How do we actually sustain the process of continuous improvement within these facilities? Meaning, what are the proper optimal operation paths? How do we identify the danger zones, the hot zones? How do we get like a Google map inside, okay? And I'm talking about warehousing, distribution, all of that. Anybody manufactures a product is often unless you're in pure software, except they do nothing except code. We use all that too. Now the other component of artificial intelligence is generative AI. As I mentioned, that is about generating new content based on existing one. In this case, we are talking about using cameras, lidars, radars, or sensors, proximity sensing, fusing all of that data, making sense out of it. There's a concept called SLAM, which is used in risk management, like stop, listen, assess, and then manage. But then applied to forklift safety and material handling, it's about simultaneous localization and mapping. And that involves 3D mapping of the pathways within the workspace, getting some precision location indoors. It's not that easy to get precision location indoors, especially when you don't have a GSM or a GPS signal with it. Okay. Outdoors is somewhat a little bit easier, especially when you have triangulation using the GSM, the access points. But nevertheless, you need the route map, you need some tracking. Now, this is not enough. You need to build on top of that. The next layer would be to have some level of dynamic detection. You need to detect what's in your pathway, right? I mean, you've got this path, you're just running blind, but you got to see what's ahead of you, right? So you need to know if it's an object, it's a human, or let's say an arm or a leg sticking out behind a pallet. And you need to catalog them as the next level. This is a human, that is an object, it's a rock, it's a pallet jack, etc. kind of thing, right? And create an environmental object graph. And once you build these things, the next level of automation comes apparent, right? You can do live alerts, you can do auto slow and stop, you can do, and we're going to talk about all those things, the predictive speed control, profile-based speed control, contextual kind of speed control, yeah. And that, in graph mobility, etc. kind of thing. And every company has bits and pieces of this. Nobody has all of this, and we also have bits and pieces of this built. And so we release gradually incremental functions that lead to automation such as light alerts, auto slow stop, geofencing, predictive control, etc. And to talk a little bit more detail about SWAM, the way it's did this, or at least how it functions for us, is that we generate the fusing of all the data from cameras, from sensors, lidars. Originally we used lidars. Our current equipment uses only camera and a proximity-based sensor. And you fuse that information and you feed it into our inference engine or machine language modeling engine, where we have algorithms that do pattern matching. So we know the pattern of how human being looks, or leg looks, or arm looks, or head looks, etc. kind of thing. And then try to infer from the information coming in, what pattern does it match, they label that, and that's the basis of our machine language model. And that becomes a baseline platform on which we can build applications, deploy it in the cloud. Okay? And this whole part is consistently being modified. Every year we have to generate newer information and then create the object catalog. So at no point in time, the version that we give you is the only one you're working with, and that's why we have like a software maintenance kind of contract where over the air the updates are provided to you, right? In here, let's just look at the visuals here. This is about detection, right? And as you can see, the operator is moving reverse, sees the human being, and the alert goes up on the screen. It's a red alert, okay? So it gets a visual alert. Now it happens within a configurable detection distance. It's not like the man is like over here. He's not like 30 feet away. Okay? But he is within a user-defined distance from the cameras. Our cameras are installed in the back of the system, and our console is at the vision level of the operator and provides for an audio signal, a loud one, as well as a visual alert. Okay? So that's the way pedestrians are detected, a different color code. Okay? Now it also operates with a partial loop, meaning like this is the whole figure moving across the direction of the forklift. It could be also just his arm maybe outside if they're signaling somebody and you don't want that arm to be put off. So immediately you will get the same alert. Okay, so it's partial loop notification also built in, and it's visual alarm as well as an audio alarm. Okay. Now let's look at how objects are detected. Now it's on the red alert. It shows that there's an object, it's a box. Okay? So we're just differentiating between the two, and there's an audio signal that differentiates. Alright? And so this also uses machine language-based identification, and the objects can be cataloged. Currently, everyone goes through different levels of it. We are only identifying them as an inanimate object. So our next level thing will identify them as a forklift or a rack or a pallet jack or something that's left behind. And this is our process of requirement generation with every customer, and we create these user conferences where people give us information, and that's the way that the next version is happening also. Now this is the traditional object detection. Now the next step is using this detection when we view it. Okay? So first thing is about predictive speed control. Let's just look at an object is thrown in the face of the direction of the forklift and it stops. Okay? And here is a human being, boom, it stops. Okay? So how do we do it? It's a proximity-based detection. Configurable safe distances are defined, and the speeds are aligned. Okay? And we bring it to a safe stop. Okay? It can operate on both electric and propane lift. On the electric lift, it can come to a dead stop, because we use the regen rating on the electric forklift to make it do that. On the propane side of things, the speed can be reduced gradually to the idling speed of the propane. And that could be what? I don't know, 1 mile an hour, 2 miles an hour. Maybe it's 1 mile an hour. But the speed itself is within mostly 5 or 6 miles an hour. Okay. So let's look at how do we configure the speaker. I just wanted to show you the screens. I mean, it's not magic, it's all done by you folks. So first thing first on our SIERA AI panel on the dashboard, you define the speed zones, like what's the maximum speed can go as high speeds. Inside the 4 zones you can actually define. And these 4 zones, then you map it into what should be the speed for each of these. Okay? And what's the distance? So the distance for each of these. So the speeds are actually the the level to which you will throttle down is here, mapped to the distance from the camera. Okay? So 20 feet you want to cut down by 50%, then you're 15 feet you want to cut down 75%, and then let's say 5 feet away you want to stop. Okay? And so it's all fully configurable, and we've got the hardware that goes and throttles down, and so that's why we're deceleration. Okay? So you don't press the brakes, it's more about deceleration. Now another form of speed control is more based on the intelligence of the that you have in the system, which is profile-based speed control. And meaning that, and we have seen some customers coming to us saying, look, I got apprentices that we use, and we don't want them to operate at full speed, only half speed. As soon as that person logs in, we know what that person is. Here in this case, you're seeing Jaden Milcom is a person who's operating, and then the authorized speeds and what maximum speed you can go, etc. You can program it down. Okay? It could be age profile, it could be the safety profile of the operator. If it's here the driver, you say, hey, you can't operate at maximum speed. Experience profile, you can give them higher speeds, higher experience. Administrative hierarchy, supervisor can do whatever you want. Then the speed based on the equipment profile too. So equipment may you want them to be operated differently. Okay? Or on days, you know, it's like Christmas Day, don't operate anything. You can define that. And the last but not the least is more zone-based speed control. So this is based on like geo-coordinates. So using actually precision locations, you can define where you want to slow down, stop, etc. Now I just have a picture on the right-hand side of the screen here, which is actually the way a mapping looks when you do the slam. The darker portion is the aisleway, or rather the rack, and the lighter portions are the aisleways in which you can travel down. Okay? Now, supposing you want to actually define a rectangular trapezoid, okay, or it could be a triangle, it could be circular, whatever. You just need to define the corners of all of them as your coordinates and define what that shape is, and say this is the danger zone, this is the no-go zone, this is the speed, the low-speed zone, etc. For example, one very large beverage company, very global, very international, came to us and said, look, we like the system, but we need this. We need a geofencing around our loading zone. Everybody's got to go at certain speeds. Okay. So we got actually working to see how we can use this. This is something that is happening in motion, in slow motion. Coming to what kind of outcomes that you really want out of this system. So at the end of the day, you can talk about all of this, different features, functionality, but what is it that you want as an administrator, safety administrator, to look at, right? You want to see all the different inspection trends, and how's my certifications, authentication, authorizations, etc. Having, in fact, month after month, on the collected cumulative data over 5 years. I want to see how my facilities are doing. I want to see what are all the impact reports, which machine is, which equipment has got the highest number, which operator has the lowest risk, highest risk profile, etc. So all of this presented in graphical formats, these are outcomes that you want to manage. Okay? You also want to see what's the asset impact report, near misses, like who's driving the skis. There are 1,001 reports we can generate. I just put a few of these. These are the outcomes we want to get at. Okay. Most often, when we talk to our clients, we ask them, what are your KPIs? What are you measured on? That's what you want as an outcome of data. Okay. So what we are presenting here are some recommendations here. Your safety roadmap. You want to do everything, but then you start with digitalization of OSHA regulatory compliance. You kind of escape that, everyone's got to do that. And you want to have some operational tracking, impact monitoring for operational safety reasons. And then you can take the preventative safety steps like collision avoidance, and then some levels of automation we're talking about are also profile-based, fencing-based, and then you can get to higher order, maybe full reversing and going all the way to the other end. But nevertheless, this is what we recommend. Okay? Which brings me to you talking Q&A. Yeah. So that's where we are. Move forward. Yes.
Do you program your obstacles for in general, or do you go to like the company and see what they have and program it for their needs?
That's a great question. Ideally, we want to go with option 2 that you talked about. Okay? So as we get more installations, okay, we don't want to do things for technology's sake or for customers. So what are those options to try to avoid? Okay? And yesterday we talked to a customer, they're talking about code. Okay? Something is in the data. I don't know what exactly that is. But we got to go there, examine, take a picture, okay, to get our cameras ready. But that's where we want it. Because at the end of the day, we cannot do what autonomous driving companies do, which is they've got $1 or $2 billion in cash in the bank. They've all been invested so heavily for 10, 20 years. They've been driving their vehicles through the streets of San Francisco, collecting 3D maps. Okay? And even to this day, Tesla doesn't tell you. They sell you a self-driving vehicle, but it's not complete. They are using you as a guinea pig to collect all the data and get it back to the system. Okay? But nevertheless, that is how it is done. But we don't want to do that infinite objects being created. We only want to focus on finite things so that we can have releases that have some meaning. So to your point, we want to focus on what customers really support. So if they say it's a pallet jack, it's always in the way, or it's a racks, all the racks have to be sort of identified. Then we can do that.
What about for like picking up certain objects, like with the forklift, like will it register that that's something I'm supposed to be picking up?
Yeah.
Because like
The actual operation, no, that's a great question. That's the actual operations of the forklift. Somebody else asked me this question about the ergonomics, okay? The imitating how forklift arms really work, taking each phase and putting it back. I mean, that alone is a separate science that some people are focusing on. But it only goes from one forklift. It's not material equipment agnostic. It has to operate on one brand, and then they take a model, I say model 10, and then one. Becomes a little bit more, equipment educated.
so like if you're driving in to pick up a pallet,
Yeah.
is it going to register that it's an object that stops short?
That we can do as the next level.
Okay.
And in other words, like, so you can program it saying, when you see that object, that pallet on the way, then you slow down. If supposing you want to ignore certain objects, you can also make that happen, right? I mean, currently we do that with impacts. Okay, I mean, customers say, don't record these impacts, you'll get problems going around, the floor is not very smooth. So these alerts are running up productivity every day, every software. So we say, fine, on the software dashboard, ignore it. Yeah, thank you.
Is this something you implement inside of the forklift, or is it we have our own forklift and we can put it in?
Great question. My fault, I forgot to say, we retrofit your phone. Okay. Any brand. Okay. So we work with 40 different brands, all that models for being connected. So we have a patent way of packaging and stopping. Bypassing the canvas, so you don't alter the insurance warranty you have with them.
Would you recommend this for any size of company, like even a smaller company?
Yeah, I think that that's a great question. We want to focus on the enterprise kind of where we architect our product in the back end where you can start small with, let's say, one facility with 5-10 forklifts, and then you have 23 facilities spread around the world with all that information and have a federated distributed architecture, right? And there's too much information and all the analytics, you could get some reasonable outcomes if you have 2 or 3 forklifts. You may may not be what it is. You have two operators, two forklifts, and probably not even doing more than one shift. You should do it very easily, whatever system is working. So they're very mindful about what investments people are going to make and it's not going to be doing the kind of design outcome. They're already getting in.
Are there different like levels of packages kind of thing? So like if it's just pedestrian, you don't want to worry about it, or is it?
We do have, currently we have just two basic packages. The first package we call SIERA Model 2. Remember I said Model 1 was our automated guided stuff. But Model 2 and Model 3, Model 2 is a base model. And it provides for the OSHA regulatory safety compliance, okay, the visual checklist, visual inspection, and authentication, and reporting all of them. And then it also provides for operational safety considerations such as impact monitoring, impacting, etc. Now, we can advance the preventative safety, and that involves more devices, cameras, and sensors, etc. And we design the system to have 360-degree concentric circles of safety, so you can start with two cameras, 180 degrees, because it's 90-degree aperture for each camera, and then add on left and right side camera to show vision. Okay? But there is a wealth of information, wealth of alerts, and you need to optimize slowly, not getting so many of these alerts, because who wants errors showing up on the screen, right? So that's what it is. Yeah.
Obviously, safety is number one priority, but number two priority is, efficiency in production. Are there reports generated to identify bottlenecks and things like that, and increase efficiency?
We have plans to provide you more insights which cater to the higher degree of information, right? Where you can make, based on inspections, based on checklists that are some of the answers that are coming through, to give you a deeper insight that maybe there's maintenance issues with this forklift, etc. kind of thing, and looking into the historical scheduled maintenance record to say this one needs to go immediately, or the operator needs to go for cost of etc. But that's the general trend.
Okay.
Set of questions. Any more? All right. I guess I'm the one guy between cocktails. Thank you all.
Thank you.